The following is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network.
This is All Things Elite. Welcome back to All Things Elite. Load up the pod, man, it's on when we speak. Rich right here, let me warm it up for Austin and Floyd. Couldn't be no one but the boys. When it come to All Things Elite from the fan perspective, swear, man, it ain't no question. Hear from them first. Swear, man, they putting in the work. No, they had to get me for the verse. Social Suplex Network's on. I was at a time in your headphones. Austin and Floyd on the microphone. Backing out on the ring, getting in the zone. Pulling up the show, give it 7 stars, you already know. Who else could it be but the show with the proclivity for positivity? I'm gone.
Welcome to the 272nd episode of Social Suplex's podcast about AEW with proclivity for positivity. Welcome to All Things Elite. I am your host, Floyd Johnson, and with me today is my special guest host, Mr. J.R. Jesus Perez. How you doing today, J.R.?
I am doing well. As we are recording, it is a beautiful spring day here in Southern California, and I'm quite enjoying the weather before it gets way too hot.
All right. Well, thank you for filling in for Austin. JR's filling in, and we've missed a week. This is completely on me. Every year is March Madness, but I don't really watch college basketball. So even though it's the same time every year, it sneaks up on me. So I really, in Austin, if y'all might know, he is basically a sports anchor. So he was covering March Madness. So he is really busy during this time of the year. And it's very much on me. So I should find a guest host for these 3 weeks of college basketball. But I always forget. And then I find myself scrambling. Luckily, I spend most of my time on the phone with JR, so he's an easy option to fill in, but I will actually make a calendar and do better at this next year. I think I promised the same thing last year. Don't really remember, but yeah, so whatever. I'm sorry. But thank you. We missed last week. He was covering basketball. A couple weeks ago, I think I had a funeral. Dude, unfortunately, a lot of people that are in my stratosphere have been passing away lately. So it feels like I've been at a funeral like every week this year. So I was not trying to bring down the vibe. You know, I'm all about the positivity, but that is just a fact of life. As you get older, that kind of stuff happens. But thank you again, JR, for joining with me. Thank you, everyone that's listening for the show. We're going to do our best to catch up on what we've missed. We're not going to do full reviews of the show from last week. We're just going to do the Collision and Dynamite this week. And then we're going to talk a little bit about what matches that they have so far for AEW Dynasty. But before we get started, make sure you're downloading this show on YouTube Music or Apple Podcasts. Please leave a rating or review. And if you're so inclined, you can follow us at AT Elite Pod, at Social Suplex, at Austin Sumowitz, that's SZUMOWICZ, and at Floyd Johnson Jr. on Twitter. I'm also at Floyd Johnson Jr. on, what's the other thing called? Blue Sky, and you can follow at AT Elite Pod on Blue Sky. So, there you go. And as a reminder, please check out Chop Tees from shirts from all the shows on the Social Suplex, which include, but is not limited to, One Nation Radio, Keeping It Strong Style, Tunnel Talk, the AEW Match Guide, which I think personally is the best shirt we have. I'm not even trying to put it over, but it has the list of all the matches on the back. I just think that's a cool ass shirt to own. Also, there's a Keeping It Strong Style hoodie, and it's like got the new logo on it. I thought that was pretty cool. So yeah, definitely check out Chop Tees to see what it is. I especially gonna be wearing my stuff at All In, but make sure you check that out. News of the week. The AEW Men's and Women's Owen Hart Cup will be announced Tuesday. So it looks like it's going to be 8 people on each side. The winner of the men's gets a shot at the AEW World title at All In. The winner of the women's gets a shot at the AEW Women's World title at All In. And a lot of people have declared, but we're going to get the official brackets on Tuesday. I am trying to talk Sir Sam from the AEW Match Guide to do a special bracketology with me on the tournament, since we know we're going to have some big stars. And I feel like even though our Eliminator Tag Team tournament was good, I think we can bring a whole new level to this tournament. So I need y'all to at Sir Sam, at AEW Match Guide on whatever your social media is, to talk him into doing the show. JR, you have any thoughts on the men's and women's Owen Cup? I'm not really talking about winning. It's just the idea that it seems to be like the most loaded, as far as the people that have announced tournaments that they've had ever in this Owen Hart Cup thing. So what do you think about that, sir?
Yeah, I think, with this year, it's very exciting because this, compared to the previous 2 years, if I'm doing the math correctly in my head, so that would be when the first time they did the Owen Hart Cup, if I remember correctly. Actually, I take that back. This is the 4th year, I believe, because the first year was in 2022 in Vegas, where Adam Cole and Britt Baker won. It was kind of AEW was in a different position, and the last couple of years they did the Owen Cup finals in Calgary, and we knew how big All In was going to be in London. With this All In, it being, the goal is to hopefully be one of the biggest, if not the biggest, attended AEW events in America. Having a star-studded Owen Hart Cup for both the men's and women's creates a lot of excitement, a lot of intrigue, trying to build up that winner to be in those main event positions at All In Texas. They're at the Globe Life Stadium where the Texas Rangers plays in Arlington, Texas. It creates that excitement to hopefully get more intrigue and to really start getting people to start focusing on their travel plans and look at buying tickets for All In Texas.
Speaking of All In Texas, I want to send a shout out to Mr. Conrad Thompson and the people at StarCast. I love y'all. Y'all are amazing. I've been to literally every StarCast except one. I just want to throw this out there. Can we get like the hotel announcement? I don't even need a star. Just give us a hotel announcement, the dates, give us something. Because generally, us wrestling fans, we make our plans out pretty far in advance. So, you know what? Be cool to know what's going on. So, like, my boy can book his flight from Canada. He's trying to pull off coming all the way from Canada, and he's like, where am I going to stay? Steven, my boy Steven is like, hey, can we get some information? So, I feel like it's better for y'all if y'all get some information out there so people start committing. Because I think there's a direct tie. Not even trying to go off on too much of a tangent. I know me and you can do that. But we talked about this constantly. There is a direct tie with attendance to StarCast and attendance to the event. And if you get big enough names at StarCast, there are people that are just going to go to the show because they're going to be like, I'm already going to StarCast to meet these people. I might, while I'm there, go to the show. You get what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and this is what it comes down to. All In is in Texas this July. Dallas is a Dallas-Fort Worth area. As you know, Floyd, your background's a place I've been to a few times with you, is a big metropolitan area. But in the summer, you are competing with a lot of family vacations and things that are going on. So if you're looking to get a crowd that is going to travel, they're going to look at what are the festivities that we're looking at. So if we're going to come for a couple of days, what is the offerings that's going to occur for wrestling for me to commit? This is my summer vacation. So for me, Me going is a little bit different because I'm flying out there with my wife to see you and your wife as we go to wrestling. So you and I already have kind of the plans to hang out. But for other people who don't have the type of connection, it's like, hey, I may not go to All In Texas unless this is like a weekend or like a 3 or 4 day festivities where we could do a con as well as going to All In Texas. If it's just the event on Sunday, I may not go and book a flight and spend money going out there just for a 1 day event. So I think by doing so, it's better for AEW, it's better for StarCast, and it's better for every fan. And the longer you wait to release that information, you are allowing fans to make decisions on maybe I'll skip that. I'm not going to end up going because I'm going to do something else this summer.
Yes, and I mean, and when you're talking about in July, you're talking about when most plans are made. So, you know, when most plans are like made and stuff. So when you get down to it, it's just like wife, husband, whatever your significant other is, says, hey, I want to go to Broadway week in New York or whatever. And it's July this to that. Well, if you haven't committed to dates to StarCast, you could end up having to go to something else. So, yeah, get those plans out. I know we are both travelers, so this is going to be more important to us than it's going to be to the average people. I know my boy J-Ro is going to be there, Sydney, Austin. I got my whole group coming. So everybody's coming, everybody's excited, but hey, where we staying for StarCast? Because it's honestly more convenient to stay at the hotel where the con is happening. It's usually pretty closely located to wherever the event's going to be. So it's just like, so we're waiting. So I already have a hotel booked because, I'm kind of a control freak when it comes to travel at times. So I already got my hotel booked, but I will switch if StarCast is like, hey, we got a good spot. So I don't know. Again, that's not what we intended to talk about today, but it's just one of those things. It's something that me and JR talk about often, and we're getting closer and closer to July, and we literally have no names, no announcements, no anything. So it's just like, build up excitement, get the platinum badges out there, get the silver badges, get the gold badges out there, so everybody can buy what they're going to buy. And, and for me, it's like, right now, I will generally wait, because Sting is going to be in Oklahoma in May, right? And I can take my wagon of Sting shit and get it signed, but I was waiting for StarCast, because if StarCast announced Sting, I'm going to go ahead and do it there, just because it's, it's doing stuff with StarCast, because that's where I would prefer my money go. But I'm going to get my Sting shit, so you got a minute. Go ahead and get that information out there. So, all right, moving on. But yeah, the idea of the Owen Cup, from what it started at to now, where it's gonna be like the most important, like the C2 is great, and this is what I would prefer the C2 be, is this big event that leads to a world title shot at a big event like the G1. But this is more like a New Japan Cup style tournament, but this is a New Japan Cup style tournament with absolutely no filler. When you think about the names that have been like Jay White, Hangman, Will Ospreay, let's be real. You're probably going to get Josh Alexander in this tournament. You're going to have nothing but former world champions in this thing. This is going to be all killer, no filler kind of situation. And then on the women's side, they've really built up the women's roster to with a lot of people that matter. You got Chris Statlander. You got Thunder Rosa. We got 2 more people that we're going to talk about on Collision that got added. And it's just like, okay, we're getting more big names in this Owen Hart Cup thing. So let's do this. I'm down. Because you think about it, if you think about it with last year, the men's Owen Hart Cup was Bryan Danielson, right?
Yes.
And then the women's was Mariah May. They both won the title at the event. So right now it's like, oh yeah, you win the Owen Hart Cup, you're going to win the title. So that's a big setup. So there's some names that haven't been announced. I think Tuesday I'm going to record after the announcement, whether Sam does it with me or not, which please, Sam, please. Yeah, I'm trying to peer pressure you. Yeah, come on. I'm being pushy. A little bit pushy. I want you. I want you. I need you. I like you. I want you. We can do this the easy way or the hard way. The choice is yours. No, just kidding. But yes, so I'm really looking forward to doing some extra audio about tournaments. That's like one of my favorite things in wrestling is tournaments. So it'll be amazing. So on to our AEW review for March 26th. It was live from the Roy Wilkins Auditorium in St. Paul, Minnesota. I think it was about 2,000 people there, so that was kind of cool. So Tony and Nigel was on the call, and we started off with Timeless. Oh, okay. Never mind. That was the Collision. I clicked on the wrong button. But yes. So, yeah, it was Excalibur, Taz, and Tony Schiavone. We started off with a big match, Kenny Omega versus Blake Christian. Now, I like Blake Christian. I like, of course, love Kenny Omega. I don't think, as far as trying to get your audience into the show, there's I'd say about 8 people in AEW right now. If you want to start a show, just their music and everything that goes along with them is the perfect to start the show. Kenny Omega is a perfect way to get the audience started in the show. Good match. I think Blake Christian showed himself well, but this wasn't about having a competitive match with Blake Christian. This was about Kenny Omega, and he pretty much won. It hit him with a V-trigger and then a one-wing angel and got the pin, and that was the end of the match. And then he grabs the microphone, says, now it's unfortunate, but I don't get to wrestle every week like I'd like to. But when I promised them, heck, I'll make it quick. Tony Khan had no choice but to sign on the dotted line. But it'll be a far different one choice at Dynasty against Ricochet and Speedball Mike Bailey. And then Speedball came out, and I actually thought he did really well. I think the guy looks like a dork, don't get me wrong, but I'm not going to let that affect, just critiquing. He sounded good on the mic here. I thought he was good on the mic here. I've never heard about his mic work, and I've never really paid attention to him other than a few matches here and there. So he actually held it, and he said he's not going to pull any punches. He won't hesitate for 1 second when he gets the chance to kick your head clean off and take your championship. Ricochet appeared on the big screen, said he wanted to be there, but he was getting married, which was a shoot. Because Ricochet and Samantha Irvin got married on Wednesday, which was crazy because guess what, JR? I already thought they were married. Do you follow Samantha on social media?
No.
Okay. Well, if you follow Samantha Irvin on social media for about 3 years, you know what she's been calling Ricochet? Her husband.
Yeah, as somebody that's a slightly younger generation than you, brother, that is something that people my age have been doing since like high school to be like, oh, that's wifey, that's hubby. Like even in high school that was being said. So that's why for me, if I ever heard that, I'm just like, oh, it is what it is.
So yeah,
it's the younger generation thing.
So I just thought they got married in a private ceremony, didn't announce it on social media. And I was like, cool, good on you. And then I found out, hey, they weren't married, but they got married, so that's good, and I'm happy for them. So, and he just basically said that he'd be there. He's gonna after Dynasty, he's gonna leave with the girl and the gold. And then he said, Mega said, congratulations. I have a cat I don't need anymore, which is a constant thing that he says. Cat people are weird. I want to throw that out there. Trust me, when it comes to wrestling, there's only one thing I have time for. It's what's around my shoulder, and it's my legacy. And by the way, welcome to AEW. So, yeah, that was a pretty cool segment to start the show. Minnesota was into the show. I'm going to tell you right now, I did not feel the same way about Milwaukee. But Minnesota was definitely into the show. Next, we heard from the Learning Tree. Chris Jericho basically said Big Bill and Brian Keith have been sitting under the Learning Tree, so they should have done something more by now. He's tired of asking them to prove that, they deserve to be under the tree, but he's going to tell them, go prove that they're under the tree. And basically, Bandito got his mask back. Congratulations. Got his brother's mask back, but he said, I want your mask. So I want you to feel the humiliation and the disgrace. How about my title and your mask on the line? See you at Dynasty. So this is what I was confused about. Because on this show, and tell me if this doesn't confuse you, they announced on May 2nd, we're going ROH Supercard, right? Cool. We're doing ROH Supercard. Why would you be doing the mask versus title, your big money match, on the AEW pay-per-view and not on the Supercard pay-per-view? Because to me, you put your tickets on sale, having Bandito versus Jericho, mask versus title, seems like that would move tickets, but then they just basically tell you, yeah, right now you don't know what you're getting at that show. So, do you see what I'm saying, how that doesn't make sense?
To say this in the most briefest way possible, I stopped trying to figure out what Tony Khan is doing with ROH a long time ago.
Okay, because it just seems like, oh man, that's a big match to announce. That's a big match to announce to move tickets to your ROH show. And it's like, well, no. We're going to do this on the AEW show, which is great. You know, I mean, I have ROH and AEW. I'm going to watch both shows. Don't get me wrong. But it just seems like for moving tickets, announcing Chris Jericho main eventing your show seems to be the way to go as far as moving tickets, because he's still a draw. MJF comes out next. MJF comes out next. He is joined by MVP. He tells MVP that he wants to be in the business of hurting people, and they shake hands. But before that happens, Bobby Lashley and Sheldon comes out. Bobby Lashley stands in front, comes up to MVP, tells him basically, without saying a word, give me the card back. And he gave him the card back, and he teared it up. And MJF's like, I thought we had a deal here. And MJF left because, you know, you don't want that smoke with Bobby Lashley. Look at Bobby Lashley. And then there was a little confusion there. And Big Bill and Brian Keith comes out. And he says, I see you guys standing in the ring with those tag team titles, but I don't see a challenger. MVP says, me neither. He said, you want to run your mouth, huh? Are you a pimp or a businessman? So I'm a little bit of both. He said, let me remind you, I was once a tag champion. I was never pinned or submitted for those titles. My partner got submitted by Sting. We need to prove ourselves, which was a shot at Ricky Starks. I'm going to take my rematch and those titles. Why don't you guys, MVP, why don't you guys win a match, and then, and only then, will we give you an opportunity for these titles. So MVP said something else. He was cooking Big Bill. They didn't put everything in here, and I think it was because it made Big Bill look a little rough there. But MVP is king of one-liners. Like, you don't want to be on a mic unscripted with MVP. He will cook you. And you saw a little bit of it. But yeah, so that is basically them being split storylines. You know, the Hurt Syndicate being in split storylines. One with the MJF thing, we're going to see where that goes out. And then the other with Big Bill and Brian Keith trying to get a title shot, which was reminiscent of Brian Cage and Archer, where they say you have to beat someone to come fight us. So that's pretty cool that's going to be a thing that MVP does. But the big part in this that I was like, I honestly wouldn't blame, at this point in time, the way this was set up, I wouldn't really blame MJF for turning it on the Hurt Syndicate. Would you?
So, yeah, I mean, of course not. So, essentially what I've gathered in the last 96 hours is a few things. Number one, the Hurt Syndicate, since they've came to AEW, has been one of the most popular tag teams they've had in at least a year that's outside of FTR or the Young Bucks. And so even though they should be dastardly heels, because of what they bring to the table and how AEW fans are with their appreciation of quality segments and quality acts, they're turning them babyface, which is why we've seen after the destruction of Private Party at the hands of Hurt Syndicate, why we've seen the Hurt Syndicate put in situations with heelish teams like the Murder Machines and then now Big Bill and Brian Keith. One of the rumors that I heard, I think this was from Dave Meltzer, was the actual match that was supposed to happen at Dynasty was the Murder Machines versus the Hurt Syndicate, but I guess Brian Cage had injured himself at an independent show on the 20th of March in LA. And so that allowed an opening for Big Bill and Brian Keith to step in. So this match is more of a filler because there is a bigger end game that I believe the Hurt Syndicate has in storyline, and that is with MJF. And obviously who's going to be, if you want to be turned babyface very quickly, MJF is the person to do it. I see a situation, my theory is the addition to the AEW roster of some old friends of MJF, known as Hammerstone and Holiday, members of the Dynasty that was in Major League Wrestling with MJF prior to MJF signing with AEW. Hammerstone is a big, bad, muscular dude who could go, toe-to-toe with Lashley. Holiday is a great wrestler in his own right. And so with the addition of MJF, I think those three men versus the three men that the Hurt Syndicate currently has with MVP, Shelton, and Lashley would be make for some interesting TV with MVP versus MJF on the mic.
I completely agree. I would love for him to call their team the Hurt Dynasty. I've always liked that. Like one of the things I liked from John Cena in the back in the day when he changed the F5 to the FU. I like when stuff comes direct as a shot at other people. Maybe it's too on the nose. It might be, and I'm okay with that. I like stuff that's a little bit on the nose. So, whatever. But moving on from that, we had Proto-Star Kyle Fletcher. You have to say the whole thing. The Proto-Star Kyle Fletcher versus the Hounds of Hell's Brody King. Banger. What did you think of this match, sir? I just thought it was just a really violent match, and I loved it.
Yes, it was brilliant. And, shout out to Kyle Fletcher, who, as he's turned into having this amazing run as a singles talent in AEW, I feel that there's a lot in his future, and the goal is to I feel that for him after the loss at Revolution is to kind of start getting some, getting back on the winning track. I can completely see him being in the Owen Cup as another talent, but definitely I think the future is bright for Kyle Fletcher for the rest of the year in AEW, even going into next year.
Yes. Yeah, I completely agree. Kyle Fletcher, I think I'm not even going to just say a future AEW champion. I think he's a future multiple-time AEW champion. I just think he is going to be main eventing All In one day. I think it's going to be a time where, you still look at the big four. You might even say big five pay-per-views if you call it Forbidden Door. But when you look at the big four AEW pay-per-views, I could see a year where Kyle Fletcher main events all of those shows. He came through Don Callis distracted referee long enough for Mark Davis to pull Kyle Fletcher out of the way. Kyle Fletcher walloped Brody with the turnbuckle brainbuster and scored the pinfall. It looks like Fletcher's all the way in. Fletcher, it was like he was partially there and he was partially not. Don Callis was the devil on his shoulder, but he still had that angel on the other shoulder. Will Ospreay, he's completely flicked that angel off, and he's all the way Don Callis family. No hesitation. He's 10 toes down, as the children say, and looked like Mark is all about being in the Don Callis family. They were attacking Brody after the match. Powerhouse Hobbs comes down to the ring to even up the odds, and then it had me thinking, Brody King and Powerhouse Hobbs as a tag team. Who beats them?
Nobody. You talking about meat on meat.
Dude, I have, as much as I like tag team wrestling, as far as it's my favorite thing, and FTR is my favorite team, and then they're not giant guys. Dude, I love me a powerhouse tag team. I've loved Ryan Cage and Lance Archer. I just love when, like, one of my favorite tag teams growing up, and they were not a tag team very long, was the Skyscrapers. Fuck, I love the Skyscrapers. And I'm talking Dan Spivey and Mark Callis Skyscrapers. I just thought that was like, dude, just tie two giant people and let them tag up each other. No weak links. I always thought that it challenges you more to come up with better matches and better stories because, you know, you don't have those obvious weak links. I used to love the Brothers of Destruction, APA, which I know APA weren't necessarily tall, but they were kind of built like a monster tag team. They would just run through people. And I love those teams. So anytime I see two big old men, yeah, let's do it. And while I want Will Hobbs to be a world champion in AEW, I do. I want Will Hobbs to be somebody. I like I said, he would be the one wrestling Chris Jericho for the ROH title if it was me. So I want big things for Big Bill, but for Will Hobbs. But I don't know if that main event scene seems to be the path in AEW. So I'm like, dude, let's put him with a good person. Let him be a part of a dominant tag team, win some tag team titles. I think that might be a way to go. But I'm always rooting for Will Hobbs. So as long as he's on TV and they're using him regularly, I'm happy. But, you know, you start thinking after you've seen him on TV, when you get to that first step of seeing Hobbs on TV, you start thinking, what's next? What's next? What's next? And it's just like, you look at the singles division in AEW, right? And even though there's like 900 titles, they all seem kind of spoken for, right?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, so, I mean, I'm going to say this briefly. Obviously, we know what the AEW Heavyweight Championship, obviously we're getting to All In. I don't think Moxley's losing the belt anytime before then, in my opinion. Some people are thinking Swerve and Hangman, but either way, I think that's the direction we're going. The International Championship, the Continental Championship, looks like Omega versus Okada at All In. I feel that the goal is to put the TNT Championship on Adam Cole. So I mean, that's one of the things is AEW, I think we've come to know they kind of have, for the most part, either this longer idea of where they're going with titles or they have certain people in mind. So because of that, in the interim, you know, we have what happens with certain talent, and that's the hard part, like where we're at right now.
I mean, and yeah, it's just a very loaded singles division. They are doing better on the tag division, but it's like you had the Guns come back and work one match and then go away, right? So the tag division is even kind of loaded. So it's just like, yeah, we need to get some directions on things going forward. So what was next? Oh yeah, Hobbs beat Davis, fairly straightforward match. Beat him with a spine buster to get the 1, 2, 3. Lexi Nair's backstage with the Patriarchy. Nick Wayne, I'm starting to understand it now, Lexi. I know why Christian Cage did what he did at Revolution. I'm waiting to speak with him face to face. But last week you saw how we properly, and I mean popularly, executed a plan. So if I'm looking further down the road, I feel like this is leading to Christian eventually turning face, with Nick Wayne the Patriarchy turning on Christian. I don't know why, but I kind of see it that way. Did you see what I'm seeing, sir?
Absolutely. I think the biggest thing with what's going on with the Patriarchy is, I think it's kind of ran its course. Nick Wayne, in my opinion, is a very young generational star. I mean, we talk a lot about Kyle Fletcher, but think about, Nick Wayne. I saw Nick Wayne wrestle in 2022 when he was not even 18. So now as somebody who, I mean, I don't know if he's even 21. This is a guy that not in the immediate future is going to be contending for championships because he's so youthful, in my opinion, because there's a lot of leeway, a lot of, time you can to continue building him. But I think the time is to like, hey, okay, what's the next transition for Nick Wayne? And I think even the same with Kip Sabian. And the thing about also with Kip Sabian is I think he, being in AEW, he was on the opening match of the first Double or Nothing in 2019. He has grown as a talent. He's grown into his look. He looks phenomenal. He's put on size. So I'm like, there's something here with them doing something different, getting away from Christian. And on the flip side with Christian Cage, we hate to say this about our legends we grow up with, but he's the tail end of his career. So it's like, what's the next thing for him that's not just for him to do before he retires? I mean, something for him to sink his teeth into. It's just like, all right, let's transition to something different that's going to be unique, something that I can do before we really have a swan song.
Yes, and why did Cope say he chose to come back to AEW? And it was simple, because he wanted to wrestle with Uncle Jay, as they call him. So I think we're leading towards, we're getting to the point where we're about to get that Christian and Cope a tag team, and I think it's gonna be good when it's time. And I think I know who they'll be facing. So maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. We'll see. But I feel like this Christian's run as a bad guy, which he was the elite bad guy in wrestling.
I'm going to say this.
Yeah.
If we get the match that you and I have kind of been talking about, that includes, Christian, Cope, FTR at Texas, me and your wife are going to have to arm wrestle on who's going to sit next to you during that match.
Oh, you know what? My wife, John Moxley cut a promo with talk about the people he's scared of, and I agree. I'm scared of my wife, so she wins. I'm taking her side every time. But she might be willing to let you sit down there for one match because she is just like me, like weirdly generous. So
I gotta see that match. I gotta be 5 feet away from that match if it happens.
I need them to sweat on me, boy. All right. Well, what's the next thing? All right. And I've saved this every time. Austin's way better at guiding the show than me. My ADHD kicks in sometimes. Renee interviewed the Hangman backstage and wanted to ask him about entering Owen. Swerve interrupted and got into Paige's face. Prince Nana separated them. So that looks like it's leading to something. Rated FTR had a sit down with Tony Schiavone. I will sum this up. Dax apologized. Cope, didn't really accept his apology, but he kind of accepted his apology. Dax said, I want to go after the tag team titles. Cash said, I want to go after the trios titles. I want to take another shot at trios titles. Cope says, I agree. So April 6th, what do you say, Death Riders? Well, Cash and Cope were all into it. Dax was like, well, kind of whatever. He didn't seem like he wanted to go down the trios title path, which, again, I love my Rated FTR shirt, but I feel like it might be a little, past due. Yeah. So it looks like on April 6th, Cope, Rated FTR has challenged the Death Riders. Prince, Nana, and Swerve come to the ring. There was a lot said in this, but just basically, again, I'm gonna sum it up. Swerve says, "I'm the most dangerous man in AEW. I ain't like those other dudes. I come to kill." And so, and then Mox comes in, basically says he don't give out handouts. So how far are you willing to go? I'm willing to go all the way right now. You the most dangerous man in AEW, right? Marina Shafir jumped on the apron with a crowbar. Willow Nightingale, I think she borrowed Rio's pipe, and she came out with a big-ass lead pipe. It swerves like you've led buckets. I've led buckets. In 11 days, I take back that AEW World Championship. Marina and Willow begin the brawl. Claudio pulled Marina away while Prince Nana pulled Willow off Shafir. So, yeah. So we got a little more build up for Mox versus Swerve. Now, I'm gonna take this moment to say we're in a dangerous position for AEW. I was one of the ones at the beginning of the year saying you need people that you actually believe are going to beat Mox. And they've done a good job with that. They did a good job making you think Cope could win. You know, they're doing a good job with Swerve. But I feel like they might have picked too good of an option. You get what I mean, JR?
I agree. And this is the reason why I will say, because there's many fans of AEW, and I'm not talking about casuals. I'm not talking about people who pretend to like AEW. I'm talking about AEW diehards. Like, they were there in Jacksonville, January 2019. They've been riding. They put money in, traveling from pay-per-view to pay-per-views, that are just completely over Moxley being champion in this whole Death Riders story situation that's occurred since last October when he won the belt. And Swerve, on the flip side, is one of the best fan favorites talent AEW has. AEW has, because of what he's done with Prince Nana, positioned himself to be one of the biggest fan favorites, got the new contract extension, main event star, main event money. People love him. People love to dance. People love to sing his entrance theme. So you're putting this really big fan favorite who's really over against a heel that people really don't like. And not in the sense of like, I want to see him lose. They're just like, I just want the belt off of him so he can go away. I don't want to see this ever again. I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing if the goal is for Moxley to retain.
And that's what I was thinking. Swerve, Ospreay, Hangman. Anytime they're in a title match, people want them to win. They're the biggest fan favorites in the company, and I'm talking about the AEW diehard fan favorites. So it's just like, yes, I am absolutely, love that Mox and Swerve are going to have a match with each other. Actually, I think the last time they wrestled, the only time they wrestled, or, most recent time, was in Oklahoma City. I was there for that match. And that's great and all. But people have reached that point. And I'm hoping it's a WWE situation, because those last few Roman Reigns, defenses before he finally lost the title, I'm talking like, the Drew, the Sammy, the Cody the first time. Those felt like they were breaking points where if Roman didn't lose, the fan base might revolt. AEW's super hot right now. Seems to be on a hot upswing on every other metric. So I think you've put yourself in a position that if you don't do Swerve possibly losing right, you might have painted yourself in the corner where all this goodwill that you've built up since the middle of January, you can throw it away by not putting the title on Swerve. And me personally, I don't care. You know me. Don't care. I love FTR. I always want them in something meaningful. I don't really care if my favorites, for the most part, win or lose, long as they're in stuff that matters. So generally, having Mox as the champion is not going to make me like, oh, I'm turning the channel. It's fine. It's just one part of the show. But I just think you're at this thing where you really do need to have your finger on the pulse of your audience to know if you can execute Mox winning and still keep him, or they might just do the thing and give Swerve the title. I don't think that's going to happen personally, but, you know, I just felt like this is the couple weeks worth of thoughts. I think it needs to be said that I feel like they ain't going with Mox might cause an issue, you know, but what do you think?
So, everything that you have said, I completely agree with, because at the end of the day, they don't got to worry about you and I, because you and I would have, as fans, will have criticisms, we'll have disagreements, we'll be like, oh, that was dumb, but we're not going to change the channel. We're not going to be like, hey, we're not going to All In because they did this. It's the other fans who have been kind of turning against the company over the last few months that you got to worry about. And I think you're putting yourself in a situation, in my opinion, that's a lose-lose. The difference, I would say, between what happened in the other company is not what you said isn't incorrect, is that there were people who were still big Roman bloodline fans. And what really allowed that company to continue was what Cody did after WrestleMania 39. The difference, I think, with here is that I don't see many people who are like advocating for this Death Rider storyline. And if you don't give Swerve the belt, you better put him in something that's very important, in a storyline role that's going to continue and maintain not just his popularity, not just his momentum, but for you as a company to give him something that's really intriguing. So people are not happy with the Death Rider storyline, Moxley being champion. It's like, it's okay, because like you and I mentioned when we went to Revolution, the storyline with Omega and Takeshita, the storyline with Fletcher and Ospreay was more intriguing for us going to the show than that main event. So that's the only thing, is that if you don't pull that trigger, say, hey, we're going to give the belt back to Swerve and go a different direction, you better give him something that's going to be as intriguing, or if not more, than what you would do if he with the Death Riders, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. It absolutely makes sense. It's just, like I said, it's just one of those things. I doubt anyone listens to the show, but if you do, just want to throw that out there. That's if you didn't see that could be a trap that you're stepping into. Let's see. Then we had. Where did I get left off? All right, yeah, I got stuck. All right, Shibata commandeered a camera with ops. Max Caster was talking to AR Fox, and Joe basically asked Hook, "Why did you answer the open challenge versus Matt Caster?" He's like, "He's fun to choke out." And then Joe, I guess, had to decide to see it himself. He chokes him out, and he said, "Yeah, that was kind of fun." Yeah, and I forgot what Shibata said on the camera, but he said they have a lot of stuff transcript out on the reviews, but yeah, they didn't have that out there. Then we get backstage with Jay White, Ospreay, Hangman. "I'm now entering myself into the Owen Hart tournament. I'm going to win the cup this year and have a shot at the AEW World Championship at Texas. How about I return to Collision this Saturday and see if anyone is man enough to show up to face me?" And then it was announced later that Switchblade would be wrestling Kevin Knight from New Japan. Then we had Top Flight versus Devo Knight and Alex Finley. I'm thinking this is just a way to get Top Flight from Minnesota on the show. The crew, Leo Rush and Action Andretti, were watching from the front row, taunting Top Flight. I like the name The Crew. I like it. Big Bill and Brian Keefe were scouting the match backstage. It was a squash. Top Flight just wins. There was nothing there. Then we had Mark Briscoe versus Konosuke Takeshita, and you can imagine how awesome this match was, and it was awesome. But the finish of it was Takeshita escaped the cutthroat driver. He then planted Briscoe with a raging fire and pinned Briscoe. that could have gone either way. What a battle, Taz said. But my boy, the Dragon, the Konosuke, the Alpha. Yeah, All right. Then we had the Trio Champions Death Riders. Claudio, you guys are pathetic. Pac, it's your arrogance that we find hard to stomach. You have the audacity to challenge us. No, that's not how things work around here. After what you did to us at AEW, we challenge you to survive the Death Riders. Which again, yeah, Pac's amazing. I've always said, I think one of the best, hey, this is how he was presented over there, and this is how he's presented here situations, is Pac. Like, dude was never really taken seriously on the main roster as a heavyweight. In AEW, he's one of the biggest badasses on the screen. And the dude, he didn't grow. He didn't get more jacked. Same person, but it is presented a completely different way. Or if they were to put the world title on Pac, we'd be like, okay, because you can buy it because that's how he's been presented. His presentation has made him amazing, and he's not limited by his size by any means. Alicia Toot was trying to get a word with the Hurt Syndicate. MVP is like, I don't get time off. We've been talking about adding a fourth minute for some time. I made a move, so what's the problem? MJF has a reputation. Bobby like, I don't like him. If you guys don't want him in, we can revisit it. This is not, like a dictatorship, but let's focus on this big bill business. So, yeah, so basically they said, let's put a pin in it. I don't feel like MJF's going to, take being a pin put in it. You know what I mean? But we will see. AEW Women's World Champion, Timeless Tony Storm, and Thunder Rosa, a.k.a. Thunder Tits. I wonder how the censors at old TBS felt about that one. Oh, whatever. Thunder Tits versus Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford, who don't really have a name. I call them the Janela Girls, but, whatever. Hate it, don't hate it, whatever you want to do. In the end, Thunder Rosa spiked Penelope with the Death Valley Driver. Bayne planted Rosa with the Fate's Descent. I'm guessing that's the F5. Bayne and Tony battled in the center of the stage. Tony crashed into Bayne with a hip attack. Bayne no-sold that shit like a boss. She got back up to her feet. Bayne blasted Tony with Fate's Descent and pinned the AEW Women's World Champion clean in the middle. Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford against a win. Taz, man, you talk about getting some momentum. Wow, that's some momentum. So Megan Bayne, JR, since you're not on the show all the time, I'm going to let you take the floor. What are your thoughts on this match, and what are your thoughts on Megan Bayne in general?
I thought it was a great match. I mean, I think especially what Thunder, Tony, and Megan bring to the table, and Penelope, she's continued to grind out from the time she started in AEW till today. With Megan Bayne, I got a chance to see her in Stardom when I was in Japan back in January of 2024. She was a star. She has this presence about her presentation, as kids would say today, the aura about her, that when I was in the crowd, many of the fans there in attendance were really chanting her name in, again, remember, Japan's different way that they would chant than in America, but she was definitely one of their top stars. And I remember saying they need to bring her to AEW and put her on TV, because she's going to be something. She's going to fill that a role that was left behind by, in my opinion, by Jay Cargill, this very big, muscular, dominant presence. But the difference, though, is that Jade was very raw, whereas Megan is very polished, because she has been doing this for a while. I personally think it's a mistake to put her up against Tony this time, because I'm just going to call it like I see it. I don't feel AEW does a good job with their women's division and booking. I think with a lot of talent that they get put in certain positions, they'll get on TV for a minute. Sometimes they'll get wins. Sometimes they'll even get a championship victory, get the belt, and then all of a sudden they're off TV for a period. And somebody who I think Megan Bayne could be a cornerstone of your women's division in the same way that Toni Storm is, in the same way that Mercedes Moné is. I would rather have built her up more slowly and then eventually get over by the end of the year, whether it be a TBS champion or something of that nature. My biggest concern is that she won't beat Toni Storm for the belt, and then she just kind of withers away into, the background. And that's where she should not be, because she just has that look, that presence, that feel for the ring. That would be, hey, she could be one of your top 4 women in your division.
I'm Brock Lesnar her. She's squashing Toni Storm at the pay-per-view. That's me. I'm like, not many times you get a person with the wrestling ability, the look, the aura, the everything that just pops off your screen. And when you get this person that could end up being a generational talent for your women's division, like a lot of people thought Wardlow could be, and like a lot of people thought other people that they have kind of missed on could be. That being said, because of that is why you want to strike while the iron's hot, and you have pushed her and made her look so dominant. If she just goes in there, and I'm not talking, and just wins convincingly. It doesn't have to be like 17 Germans or anything like that, but just wins convincingly, where she doesn't cheat. Penelope Ford doesn't have anything to do with it. Toni Storm just doesn't have enough to take out Megan Bayne. That would be my preferred way to do it, and that's literally how you make a person. So, let's go. Let's do it that way. And that's how I see it going down in my head. But, I could be right, could be wrong, wrestling. All right, on to Collision. And we're going to jump right into this because of my sidebars, the shows went a little longer than we wanted it to. So I'm going to kind of go through Collision. We kicked off with Toni Storm, called out Megan Bayne. Megan Bayne came out. They had some good camera work here. And all of a sudden you see Penelope Ford jump in the ring on the camera. And, you see Toni Storm beating on Penelope Ford. The camera zooms back. There's Megan Bayne. She attacks her, flattens Storm with the Fates descent on the world title. It was pretty awesome. Timeless Toni Storm. Definitely amazing on the mic. I mean, honestly, between her and Mercedes, I don't know who's more the face of the AEW's women division right now. But Toni Storm feels like, even though she had success other ways, she feels more like a homemade AEW star, even though, again, she had success other places. Toni Schiavone, a coordinated attack. Bayne flattened Storm with Fate's Descent, the world title. Then we hear from Jon Moxley and the Death Riders. Claudio, this Wednesday, cope, you and me, one-on-one, for what you did to me. I know you're losing your edge, and you're just trying to cope with it. That's why I'm going to beat you to a pulp. You get it? Claudio with the dad jokes. It was amazing. Moxley, there are only 3 people I fear in this world: my mother, my sister, and my wife, until I met Marina Shafir. I don't want to be the one to piss her off. Sorry if you talked a big game on Wednesday, but you'll have to back it up. He also had this good line. He's like, honestly, if it was up to me, we would just sit back, eat our popcorn, and let the women tear each other up. But you talked a big game, so on Wednesday you'll have to back it up. Marina spoke some language that I don't know. I'm gonna call it Russian. I know it's not Russian. I don't think it's Russian, but she spoke Russian, and again, I know it's not actually Russian. I just don't know what the actual language is, and I don't feel like Googling it. Willow, try to keep smiling when I rip your liver out and shove it down your throat. Okay. All right. So, me and JR were having a conversation. I'm just saying. I'm just going to say it like this so we can keep it PG and keep it moving. Marina makes me feel some feelings that I'm not comfortable with. So, there you go. Jay White and Kevin Knight. Very competitive match. Introduction match to Kevin Knight. Apparently Kevin Knight and Jay White were in New Japan, but they had never wrestled. They had a great match, but old King Switch hit him with the Blade Runner, pinned him 1-3 right in the middle, shook his hand, told everybody that Kevin Knight's not going to be in, basically said, hey, you're not going to be in the Owen Cup this year, but we think you're going to be something to deal with for the years. And it was just kind of funny. Jay White in a quote-unquote face role is unnerving. What do you think, JR?
Yeah, one of the things about Jay White is that I don't think people talk enough about his promo abilities.
Yeah.
He is very fluid. Everything he says makes sense. It's perfect. It's to the point. He has great zingers, great one-liners. I don't think people talk enough about it.
He's always been good on the mic. He's always good at the stuff when it really needs to matter. He can always get you there. But like I said, my big thing is Jay White is just like, him being nice is just like uncomfortable. So I don't know when it's going to happen or if it's going to happen anytime soon. But when he goes back to his side of the his normal side of the road, I will be, I wouldn't call it like happy, but it will work for me because it's like him being like, oh man, you're a good guy and not cheating. It's kind of weird. So it's a different presentation for Jay White. And different is good sometimes. But he did say, here for Kevin Knight. Kevin went through at New Japan Dojo, and I'm sure we'll see a lot more Kevin Knight. See you around. Now, the 2025 Owen Hart Tournament, it will be the best of the best, and I will show that I'm the best. I need to go to All in Texas because I need to weigh AEW World Champion. I'm King Switch, baby. It's still my era, and at All In, I will show it's still the Switchblade era. All right. Then we get Mercedes Moné versus Robin Renegade. Shout out to Robin Renegade, half of the Renegade twins. So, if you know the Renegades, this is a little information. Their dream is to be in, their favorite wrestler is Mercedes. The reason they wrestle is Mercedes. Their dream is to be in a faction with Mercedes. It was talked about last year, I believe, and then I think Charlotte got hurt. I'm not 100% sure, but one of them got hurt. And so, it might have been put on the back burner. I don't know if it was ever going to happen. It might not ever happen, but I'd heard rumors about them being in a faction with her. So I'm just saying shout out to Robin because I'm probably wrestling Mercedes was probably a dream come true. So that was pretty cool. But it was pretty straightforward match. Mercedes just won, tapped her out. She does this new lung blower move. I wouldn't call it new, but she's just been using it more, and I think it's a pretty cool move. I could use it I could see her using it as a finisher. She says she's the greatest TBS champion of all time. I came to AEW to win more gold, so I'm officially declaring myself in the Owen Hart tournament, and then I'll make my way to All in Texas and become the AEW Women's World Champion. So that's a big one. I did not think she would be in the Owen Hart Cup. And then the music hits, and ROH Women's Champion, the Fallen Goddess, Athena, walked down to the ring. Athena ducked a cheap shot and then blasted Mercedes with a strike of her own. Robin Renegade went to check on Mercedes and was inadvertently stunned by the O-face from Athena. So, and then Athena declares she might have did that later, but I'll talk about it now. She declares she's in it. So we not only, like, when you talk about going big for this cup, we have two current women's champions, the ROH Women's Champion and the AEW TBS Champion, both in the Owen Hart Cup. So, man, that's a banger right there. What do you think, JR, about them both joining?
Yeah, so quickly from what I gathered, if I announced these participants correctly, so far announced in the women's division, you have the former AEW Women's Champions, Thunder Rosa and Jamie Hayter, former TBS Champion, Chris Statlander, former ROH Women's Television Champion, Billy Starks, the current Forever Champion of ROH, Athena, and then the 4-belt TBS Champion, Mercedes Moné. I mean, that's a lot of belts, a lot of champions, a lot of veterans. You have created a situation where, the winner of that one is essentially close to the equivalent of the All-Star bracket. So I don't know how many is going to be the overall. I believe it's a total of 8. So that is 1, 2, 3. That's 6. So there's still, if they go with 8, there's still 2 more names to be released. But that's a solid 6 names. And I think the big thing that you and I have continuously talked about, for me, I think when you're trying to create this all in Texas and have this really big crowd and help push ticket sales, I feel like the biggest match they could make would be Mercedes Moné versus Timeless Toni Storm. But the match that I know you've talked about a lot, that we're definitely going to get at some point, it seems like is going to be the forever champion Athena versus 4-belt Mercedes Moné, somewhere either between, I would say Double or Nothing or All In. So it's definitely a lot of possibilities as far as storylines, progressions, new rivalries are about to occur. But we're definitely getting those two in the ring because that's way too much teasing for that not to happen.
And I completely agree, and that's my match. I mean, Mercedes versus... I've been calling Mercedes versus Athena at All In Texas pretty much since they announced All In was in Texas. Because if you know, Athena first won her forever title in Arlington, Texas. So I was like, dude, I think that just has to be a thing. She has to be in a big match. When they had the first pictures of the match at the show, both Athena and Mercedes were there. So I just think that's the match that has to happen. I think that's the second biggest match they have, because Toni Storm and Mercedes is the biggest match they have right now, and you definitely want to save that. So then we go on to, we had Queen Aminata backstage. She informed us that, Nixie Nair informed us that Queen Aminata was not medically cleared. Serena Deeb approached Queen Aminata. This was preventable. Every time you listen to me, you win. And every time you don't listen to me, you lose. You made the wrong choice. She said, you're right. Everything is a choice, and I still choose not to listen to your trash. I think you know I'm right. It looks like you'll have a few weeks at home to rest up. Now, let me tell you, the reason I say I got to stop on this one is they've been telling this Deeb and Queen Aminata story what feels like 6 months. Like I remember when I was in Pittsburgh for the Dynamite show there. I think it was the 5th anniversary of Dynamite. She was recruiting Queen Aminata to join her at Deeb's dojo. Now we're in March, and she's still recruiting her. I don't know. At some point, it gets uncomfortable with someone telling you no. Like, we're 6 months in. Dude got told no this much. Harassment charges would have been found. You know what I mean?
It's definitely a long-term storyline.
Like, what is this? I'm like, because it hasn't even still really taken that next step yet, you know? Like, it has taken several steps on Collision, but it's just like, what is it leading to? And usually by this time in an AEW story, no matter how long it's going, you can kind of tell where it's going. You can't tell where this is going. It just seems like, hey, fight or something. I don't know. Do whatever you're going to do. Be on the same side or fight. I don't care. Just do something. You poking it with a stick. Do something. Top Flight versus the Learning Tree, which is the Redwood Big Bill and the Bad Apple Brian Keith. As you may have imagined, Dante got choke slammed by Big Bill. The team of Big Bill and Brian Keith won, and Big Bill pinned Dante. After the match, the crew, Rush and Andretti, snuck in the ring with their chains. AR Fox jumped in the ring and cut them off. Coming to the aid of Top Flight, the crew retreated for now. And even said ... for now. That was pretty cool. Then we had the Adam Cole and Daniel Garcia face to face. they're wrestling in a no time limit match, no seconds match at Dynasty. That was the gist of this. It was pretty good if you want to go back and watch it, but there's a lot of words, so no, I'm good. Athena was backstage with Billy Starks. Mercedes, how do you like to taste the floor? Keep my name and my minion's name out your mouth. You collect championships, I'm in the same business. I'm entering the Owen Hart Cup. There you go, Owen Hart Foundation Tournament. Right. And then we had the main event of the show. There was other matches after, but the real main event in my heart, we had Dax Harwood with Cass Wheeler versus the Death Riders Wheeler Yuta. That's incorrect because he hugged, but Dax actually came out to the ring himself. It was just Dax versus Wheeler Yuta one-on-one. Good match, solid match, very much a clash of champions. Clash of styles. But in the end, Dax hurt his left arm, and then Wheeler Yuta rolled up Dax in his straight jacket type thing and gets the pin on Dax. Shock! Dax lost the singles match. And so what a huge victory. It certainly changes the color of the trios match at Dynasty, said Nigel. Now this is where I can say I want the commentators to say, hey, Dax loses another singles match. I'm like, hey, you got the history there. This man doesn't win singles matches. Well, Dax gets frustrated, yelling at the referee because he says it wasn't a 3. Clearly a 3. Wasn't a 3. And he gets mad and he grabs the ref. And then security comes out to protect Dax from the ref. I literally had never seen that happen. Generally the refs just get beat up. But security, AEW was on top of the security game. And Dax was backed into a corner. He couldn't see behind him. He was backed in the corner. He was and his face was facing the corner. And then all of a sudden, the security guards start getting beat up because Cash jumps in and starts jumping them. Dax doesn't see Cash. He turns around and pushes him thinking he's a security guard. Cash is pissed because, he just got pushed because he was just trying to help. Dax sticks out his hand. Cash slaps it away and gets up, and they start getting in each other's face. And then Cash leaves, and Dax is like, I'm sorry, it was an accident. Which is, I don't know. This is like, my chest started beating hard. Like, no, you're not going this way. You're not going this way. JR, are they going this way?
Which way are we going?
What way are we going? I'm asking you, sir.
So I think basically, I feel like I've seen this before in tag team wrestling where they're teasing like this like split almost, but in all reality, it's a babyface turn to a heel turn, which something I've talked about is like, okay, FTR has had this face run for a couple of years, but in their core, in the bottom of their souls, with all their heart, they are the best heel team in the last 30 years. I don't care what anybody says. That's not opinion, that's a fact. And so I think essentially what's going to happen is that we're going to get our guys back, but it's just slow, like, hey, it's misdirection. We're going to go this way to the left, but we're actually going to come back to the right.
Well, I hope that's what it is, because everybody loves everybody, and if Dax and Cash get in a fight, I don't pick sides when it comes to them two. Oh, and speaking of FTR, I'd like to announce, I think it was the 28th, was my 10-year FTR anniversary. 10 years ago in San Jose, California, I went up to a very empty NXT line where there was 2 guys that I had literally never seen before, had no idea who they were. They introduced them and said they're the best tag team they never heard of. I could go through the story a million times because I remember it vividly. And their names weren't even on the NXT placards. They just signed it. I still have that to this day. Of the NXT placard that they signed, it just says Dash Wilder and Scott Dawson on it. And they didn't have a name. Their name changed quite a few times before they won, and they eventually became The Revival. But I met them when they literally had 0 main events, 0 tag team titles, 0 TV matches. And 10 years later, I had no idea they were going to end up being my favorite tag team. It's just one of those things. If you wrestle in the indies, a lot of people tell you they're the best. A lot of people tell you they're going to be a star. And most of the time, grain of salt, whatever. Literally the next year, I had a similar conversation with Tino Sabatelli. You know, where he's like, I'm the best. And, you know, you see where that happened, right? So that being said, I believed them when they said it. And I was going to keep an eye out for them, and I've been watching them ever since. Again, just like, it's dumb luck. I'm not this amazing talent because I had never seen them wrestle. It was just Dax told me, and I believed him. And, yeah, he didn't lie to me. So that's really cool. Alicia Tout interviewed Nick Wayne, Mother Wayne, and Kip Sabian. End of this was basically the crew asked Nick to help them take out Top Flight and AR Fox because Nick Wayne knows AR Fox really well. And Nick Wayne said, basically Leo and said they're looking to expand their crew. And, you know, that's what Nigel said. So we will see where that goes. I truly think Nick Wayne's about to turn on Christian, so him joining the crew would make a lot of sense because they're young, fast, and athletic. So there you go. We had Hologram versus Blake Christian. I'm telling you, I really like this match. This was in a night where Dax Harwood wrestled. I think Hologram versus Blake Christian was my favorite match of the night. It was just very exciting. It was a little clunky, and they missed some spots, but I felt like they kept me excited and kept me interested. Hologram wins with the portal bomb and gets the pin over Blake Christian. So, you know, you can take it 2 ways. You can take it as Blake Christian lost 2 times in a week, or you can take it as Blake Christian was featured on national TV 2 times in 1 week. So I'm going to take it as the latter. JR, I don't believe you got to see this match, right?
No, I did not.
Oh, okay. That's cool. I mean, you go back and watch it. It was a fun match, but, you know, I'm not going to say, hey, you have to watch it, but I enjoyed it. Main event time, Jamie Hayter versus Billy Starks. This went exactly how you think a Jamie Hayter-Billy Starks match would go, except for the finish. Billy was like in some armhole, like you on an arm drag. Jamie Hayter then springboarded off the second rope and hit the Haterade. It was almost like a flying Haterade and pinned Billy. I thought it was a pretty cool finish. The match was cool. Billy's good. You know, Billy's decent. I am not as high on Billy Starks as everybody else is, but I do think she's really good. But I also accept that she's 20. So if you take her where she's at and you progress it naturally over 5 years, just the natural progression a professional wrestler has, she could be a future star. That's a great thing about AEW getting in on her so early. You're going to actually see her growing up in front of us. That's why it wasn't, to me, that big of a deal when she lost that second time to Athena at ROH. She's only 20 years old. And then I had a very weird moment last night where I was like, I'm probably the same age as her mom. Which I'm old, so whatever. But it was just weird, just a weird thought that popped in my head. I was a little high, admittedly. But that's how we ended with Jamie Hayter getting the win. And I didn't even notice, and I don't know if you noticed from me telling you, the women were heavily featured on Collision. It wasn't an all-women show, but it was damn close. It was 60-40 women's stuff on the show, which I thought was pretty fucking dope after someone pointed it out, because I didn't even think about it. I was just watching wrestling. I don't really think about, I'm not one person that's sitting there like, well, there's one women's match. There's the second women's match. Well, there's a women's segment. I'm not like that. Probably because I'm a dude, and that's not something I have to worry about. My male privilege or whatever. But once somebody pointed it out at the end, I was like, oh, that was awesome. We could do more shows like this. Because I actually thought it was a fun episode of Collision. Fun episode of Collision. What do you think about like women being featured more on the Collision show, sir?
I think in the end, the most important thing is that you have multiple divisions. And you know, in AEW, a lot, we focus a lot on matches, but a big part of wrestling is storytelling. So it's that if you're putting anybody, whether it's the singles talent in the men's division, the tag teams division, or the women's division, is that are you building up stars? It's something that you and I have talked about so much from the time that you and I have, been on the phone after the first year of AEW to today, is that what are we doing? Are we just putting on matches, or are we trying to put on matches while also creating stars and building up storylines? So I think it's, it's very important, is that if you're as a company want to create, longevity with your talent, is, ensure that you, in any division, that you create interesting storylines and you have, those talent featured on a consistent basis. I was thinking about earlier when you mentioned about Pac, one of the things about, Pac, I mean, is, and I'm not blaming anybody, whether it's, him as a wrestler or the company or whatever, but it's just that the inconsistencies of him being on and off TV, it's that he could be TNT champion or international champion, but it's just the buy-in. And it's just with the women's division too, is that with, at one point Hayter was a big star. Willow was a big star. Like people, Statlander, is that if you want to build up these women as potential challengers to Mercedes and Tony, or even future challengers to, for women who are faces, heel champions, is consistently putting them on TV and making sure it's not just filler because, hey, we just, we got to put on a TV show, but we don't want to put anything on that's too intriguing because we're competing up against the Elite Eight of college basketball. It's like, hey, put them on TV, build them up, give them some wins, and then that way you can put them in, to title matches down the road, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I agree. It was just like, I just love how they did it, because they did it without making a big deal of it. They didn't say, "Oh, this is going to be a women's heavy episode of Collision" or anything like that. This is going to be a women's heavy episode of Collision. This is going to be this. They didn't do that. They didn't make it a big deal. They just put on an episode. It was a good show. Like I said, to the point where I didn't even notice until somebody pointed it out. You know what I mean? So I think that's always good when you can make something that features black people, women, or just, any type of generally underrepresented group of people, and not really talk about it. Just let it happen. You know what I mean? Because that's, to me, that's not trying to, make it about you. That's like, hey, we're just putting on a really good wrestling show. This show happened to be heavier on women. So, I don't know. That's always been my thought on it. I always this is the first all-women's pay-per-view and all that stuff. That's great, but it's almost like you're patting yourself on the back. Just put on a good show, and people will be, happy. That's how I see it. But again, I'm a man, so, do I really have opinion on that kind of stuff? Am I allowed to have an opinion on this kind of shit? I don't know. I'll be first to tell you I don't know. First and last. So here we go. The last thing we're going to talk about is the few matches announced for Dynasty. Let's see. I was trying to click on it, but it keeps rejecting me and taking me to buy tickets, which I am not buying tickets. The few matches we have announced. We have Adam Cole versus Daniel Garcia for the TNT Championship. Then we have the Death Riders versus the Rated FTR for the Trios title. We have Toni Storm versus Megan Bayne for the AEW Women's World Championship. We have Ricochet, Speedball Mike Bailey, and Kenny Omega for the International Championship. And the main event for the AEW World title, we got Mox versus Swerve. So that looks like a pretty heavy, pretty good 5 matches. I think all 5 of those matches are going to be awesome. JR, not going to ask you what you're most excited about. What match do you think will get added to Dynasty, what other match do you think, or matches?
Why'd you do that to me for? In complete fairness, as I'm thinking, and this is as Floyd will tell you, I'm in the process of like the most busiest time of year in my job, so my mind is like going 10 different places. So I'm looking at the card and being like,
just give me
what
one
other matches do you need to add? Like, it's good, but then I'm looking, I'm like, wait a minute. So we only have one women's match. So I definitely think there's gonna be another women's match. I feel like maybe after we get the brackets from on Dynamite, I feel like with only 6 matches on the card that's been announced, and being this is like the go home week for Dynasty, that I just assume that there has to be at least 2 opening matches of the Owen Cup at Dynasty. One men's match and one women's match. So those are 2 matches I think, should be added to Dynasty based on the current 6 match listing that I see right now.
Yeah, I think I know they're going to wrestle in the mixed tag on Dynamite this week, but I want Willow versus Marina 1-on-1 at Dynasty. Just straight up fight, maybe a street fight. Oh, Willow's so good at the violent matches. Let's go street fight. Philadelphia street fight, Willow versus Marina. What do you think?
As long as it's not a Texas death match, I'm all for it.
Texas death match is just a street fight in AEW anyway. So, and then the Hurt Syndicate's gonna wrestle someone. With the Hurt Syndicate being so hot, I don't see them missing a pay-per-view for a long time, which makes me happy that the tag belts are in somebody like that. That tag belts are on the hands of somebody that you pretty much have to feature on each pay-per-view.
Again, it might be in 10 different ways. I don't see how the Hurt Syndicate. So one of the things with, I think, every AEW event that we see, there's always one moment that is not essentially wrestling related. Like, has nothing to do with the match, but a storyline development. I feel for the most part there was always something like that in every AEW pay-per-view, whether it's a debut, a return, some sort of something. And like we saw it, for example, at AEW Revolution to end the show. Swerve came out, took out Moxley to end the night. So I feel like we're definitely getting Hurt Syndicate versus Big Bill and Brian Keith, because essentially it's like, all right, we got to get a match. They're going to get a W. But I feel like MJF is going to come out in whatever it is that's going to be to go after the Hurt Syndicate.
And I'm down with that. Yeah, let's go. Let's make that happen. But yeah, we could talk about this like another hour, but we're gonna start wrapping up and letting people go. So that's it for that part. The AEW Dynamite for next week. We got a solid card. We had the previously mentioned mixed tag match between Swerve and Willow versus Mox and Marina. We then have Tony Storm versus Penelope Ford. We have Cope versus Claudio. And then we have Will Ospreay returning. I don't know if he's going to wrestle. And then on Tuesday, again, the day before Dynamite, make sure you keep an eye on your social medias, Twitter, YouTube. They're going to announce the Owen Hart Foundation bracket. And I'm going to do a little audio on it. I'm hoping Sam's in it with me. I'm hoping Sam Brown. I'm hoping I'm down with Sam Brown and we get him on here. But I'm at least going to be recording something by myself because I am a absolute 100% mark for tournaments. 100% mark for tournaments. So when it comes down to that, yeah, I definitely want to. I definitely want to do something special for the tournament bracket, even if it's just me talking for 30 minutes about who they announce and what the matchups look like. So I am definitely going to do that. But looks like a solid episode of Dynamite. Ratings were up again. I think this was like the 6th week in a row the AEW number went up, and that's not including Max, which apparently It's in the top 10 on Max every week. So, like I said, all signs are pointing up for everybody. The only additional news I have is about one Miss Britt Baker. Now, Britt Baker removed AEW from her X profile. Another source came out later that, it was very lukewarm. It was nothing definitive. That happened and that she may be done with AEW. I personally am hoping this is a red herring. And this is leading to some renewed type of thing with Britt debuting in some way. Because Britt Baker, as an original, one of the original AEW fans, Britt Baker was announced at the press conference, at the initial press conference. I believe she is as much AEW and synonymous with AEW as any wrestler that there. I'm talking Jericho, the Elite, all of them. I think she is synonymous with it. I know she's kind of polarizing and whether people wanting her on TV or not. I am on the definite side of wanting her on TV. She is, if not my favorite wrestler, she is one of my favorite wrestlers. And for me, and again, I want y'all to understand this is for me, I would take her leaving on the same level as I took Cody leaving. It would take something from me as far as an AEW fan. I don't understand how you can have this person that was the initial entry in the team, didn't start off well, revamped her character, was heel, wins the title to amazing fanfare, has a great title run, right? And has been as important as anyone as far as AEW making people. Not a lot of people knew who Britt Baker was outside of being Adam Cole's girlfriend. And now she was this megastar. At one point, I would say she was the most popular person on the roster. And it wasn't that long a period, but for a few months, that DMD was hitting louder than anything in the room. And that being said, I just don't see how you not have something for her. It's just like she's important. To me, she's like the Jericho or the Hangman of the women's division. She should always be in something, either building her up to the next thing or building the next person up some. Again, I'm going to feel a way that some other people don't feel. So this is not me speaking for the fan base. This is me speaking for Floyd. I know a lot of people might not believe in Thebe, but I think she does still have that solid, awesome fan base, the AEW that loves her, and she's just somebody you can put in something. So I am hoping all of this is for naught. And on Tuesday, when they announced the Owen Hart Foundation tournament, the original winner of the Owen Hart Foundation. Just think of how many things Britt has done in AEW. The fact that you can't book her into something that matters seems not to make sense to me. Does it make any sense to you, JR?
No, and we have different, you and I have some philosophies that are similar, some philosophies are different when it comes to behind the scenes stuff. I'm just going to say, I don't want to put the blame on any one person, because I think anytime there's behind the scenes issues, there's enough blame to go around for everybody. But it's definitely a situation where, number one, if you're not happy with where you work at, I do think anybody should be allowed to find employment elsewhere. I think as a company, if you have an employee that is not happy, just get rid of them. It's just because all that is just creates toxicity, and you don't want that. The third thing that I would say is that in this situation where there's plenty of money that's going around, and you employ people to do certain jobs, whether that's winning, whether that's losing, whether that's helping, get talent over, whether that's carrying the company, whether that's doing promotional work, whatever it is, there just has to really be there has to be somebody that is able to mediate any sort of conflict. It's not easy. It's terrible. It sucks. The worst thing that I do in my profession is having to be a manager and having to mediate conflict around employees and the work that they do, but it's part of the job. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to blame one person. I think there's enough blame to go around for a lot of people, but there is something to be said that somebody has to come out there and help cooler heads prevail, and that is not happening. I think in AEW, I think it's also unfortunate that a lot of stuff continues to get put out there in the public, because in the end, well, as wrestling fans, I will say this, and I'll throw myself on the bus first. We love hearing about behind the scenes stuff, but there also should be something to be said that some of the stuff should stay behind closed doors and just say, you know what, we have decided to either mutually move on, or you fix the problem and you move on to bigger things in the company. So if she leaves AEW because of this, I think it's incredibly sad and disappointing for both her and AEW, because of what I feel they have meant to each other. I think what AEW has done for Britt, kind of putting her to be that first, big women's star they had. And let's be realistic, going into past the first year, one of the biggest feuds AEW had was an injured Britt Baker versus Big Swole. Going into the ending of the COVID era was Britt Baker's run to the title. Going into one of the biggest main events they did in San Antonio was Britt Baker versus Thunder Rosa in that cage match. I don't understand how we got to this point, and it's, like I said, it's sad and it's frustrating if this really is like the end of her tenure in AEW.
And like I said, it just seems like not being able to find a use for her in your company, seems to be like a lack of imagination. You know what I mean? See, you should be able to put her somewhere. Shit. Oh, you got a whole ROH. You saying she couldn't have been a challenger for Athena? What's going on? I don't know. It's just, again, there's a lot to do. There's a lot of titles in this company. So, there's space. So that's it. Show's over. And I'm generally abrupt. I was like, I felt myself about to talk again, and I'm going to stop myself now. That being said, I hope we got you all caught up. I'm hoping you're looking forward to our tournament coverage. Before that, JR, do you have anything else you want to say before you leave? You want to drop your socials?
You guys, I'm on Twitter at TJF Professor. I tweet a lot about a lot of stuff that's not just wrestling. For those of you who don't know, I'm a diehard fan of the reigning, defending World Series champions, LA Dodgers. So you'll see a lot of Dodger talk on my thing. This is in my opinion, one of the best times of the year we're in. I think this year is a lot of fun, where we're currently at in 2025 as we're entering April. Whether, if you're a fan of professional wrestling, obviously this month is one of the biggest months in wrestling, but it's also, I think Dynasty is the beginning of the road to All In with the, we're going to get the announcement of the Owen Cup on Wednesday, the brackets. Dynasty is the second to last pay-per-view before All In. So I think we're going to start seeing a lot of storylines starting to get continue to evolve and develop. So, I mean, there's a lot to look at, and, we can be bogged down with a lot of negativity that occurs in wrestling. But I've always said there's a lot of other more pressing matters you can be up in arms about that's outside of wrestling. So let's focus on what you enjoy and give that all your passion, because at the end of the day, our hobbies, I feel, is what keeps us sane and happy. So let's not be negative about the things that we love.
Message. All right. Well, that's it for our show. Thank you for listening. Thank you, JR, for filling in for Austin. Thank you, Austin, for always being available. Like I said, I will do a better job of scheduling pretty much March off for you as we as you do, you got to take care of the real gig first. You got to make the money first. So happy for that. I'm looking forward to seeing Austin and Sydney in Detroit in May, the 2-night show, and then we'll get to see each other at All In. JR will be there also. Yeah, but yeah, this is how I'm gonna leave y'all today. Unfortunately, in my life, as I've been telling y'all, there have been a lot of people passing away and a lot of emotions and things like that. And of course, when you go to funerals and stuff, I don't know if I'm the only one to do this. You reflect on your life. You reflect on the end of what could imaginarily be the end of your life, how you want to go out, all that kind of stuff. But whenever I think about it, and whenever I think about the end of my life, what I think about is how fortunate I have been in this space. Because I do know there are a lot of people that have had negative experiences in the IWC, in wrestling, and all that kind of stuff. And, their experiences are their experiences. I am not going to take anything away from it. But me, I've been very fortunate with the people that I've met. I've been very fortunate with the crew that I've been around. I am very fortunate that the Social Suplex found me. I am very fortunate that JR came up and said hi to me at Starcast because he wanted to say hi to Tiffany, but he talked to me. And I am very fortunate that, my friend Glee, happy birthday today, and my friend Steve, we were standing in line for Mercedes, that they were willing to talk to me and all that stuff. And I am so fortunate that I get to meet people that have watched as much or more wrestling than me and have learned so much more about who I am as a person, what I like in wrestling, and all that stuff. So I've had nothing but a positive experience in this professional wrestling game. So with that, I thank you all for listening to me. I thank you all for listening to the show, hanging with us, even though our schedule's not always the tightest. I thank you all for any second, minute, or any day. I thank you all for everyone that I've taken a picture with, every person that has hugged me at a show, and I just thank you for existing. If anybody has ever never told you this, I am happy you exist. And with that, I will leave you how I always leave you. Whether it is home, work, or school, always do your best to be elite.